So welcome everybody. So glad to have you all here. A meeting about so-called non-duality. I say so-called because really there's no word for everything. There's no word for all is this. And that's really the simple message. In fact, it's so simple that it can't be understood. All is this. So whatever is appearing right now is this.
I am very new to the group.
Who's that?
Me, I'm very new to the group.
Okay, welcome. Mason?
Yes.
So there's just what's happening and no one's doing it. So pain and pleasure are equally this. Usually we're trying to avoid pain and seek the pleasure, but the pain and the pleasure are both equally this. So in that sense, they're no different. And in that sense, everything is this, from the smallest, tiniest speck of dirt on the ground to the sky. All is this. Even what feels to be like an exception. So even something that doesn't feel like this is also this appearing as something that doesn't seem like this. And if there's a sense of a me there, that's just this appearing as a sense of a me, but it's not an actual separate person. There's no entity inside that body pulling, controlling, manipulating. There just isn't. The me is a phantom. It's a mirage. So the me rejects what is. It rejects this, the only thing that is, and it seeks for its image of what it thinks will make it happy. And that's futile. It never works, ever. Because why? There's only just what is. You can't escape what is. But what is isn't personal. What is doesn't belong to anyone. Nobody owns what is. Okay. So anything can happen.
I think something is appropriate and taught.
Okay. Let's keep going. One thing about the me is that it assumes a location. The me feels like it's like in the head or in the body. That is an assumption. There's actually nothing in the head or the body. It's a feeling. But it's assumed to be real. It's not investigated. Just because it feels real. Why should I? I feel like a me. But that's the beauty of this message, and that's the freedom. It literally doesn't matter whether you feel like a me or not. Because they're both this. It's as much this to feel like a me as it is this to not feel like a me, because there's only this. And so if right now there's a resonance with this message, then that's what is. If there's not, liking the message, that's this too. Nkosi, welcome.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone.
How many different ways is there to say all is this?
Well, there seems to be many. Yeah, yeah, but it's just what's happening. Yeah, it's okay. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because this is like going nowhere, really, because it's just here. It's just this, and there's no one here. There's no doer of anything. What seems to be happening is just happening, and there's no one doing it already. There's no victim. So even what seems to be a separate doer or separate self is just this appearing as that. So there's no real separate self. It's just everything appearing as that. So everything is beautiful. Everything is okay. Everything is just the way it is. Except that there's no real doer of anything. If somebody claims that I'm here, I'm alive, I'm here, that's not an evidence that it's a real somebody. And that's just an appearance. It's just disappearing as that as well. That's one of the expressions of what is. And it's beautiful. It's okay, just the way it is. Nothing needs to happen for this to be what it is. It's just the way it is. And there may seem to be a movement. Somebody who says, oh, I'm going to get this now. I'm about to get it. But that's that's this too, appearing as. So it's okay. It's okay. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do because there's nobody to do it. So it's beautiful. So we may talk about anything, it doesn't really matter because it's just disappearing as that. It's just talking. It's just talking happening. Questions appearing, answers being given. It's just what's happening. And it's, in a way, it seems to be new. Everything is always new. Because really there's no past. There's no past. There's no present. And there's no future. It's just this. There's no time. Yeah. There's no here even. It's just this. What seems to be the movement is no movement at all. So it's beautiful. And there's no one here who's talking. It's just talking happening. And this, what seems to be talking, can never be found, can never be known, can never be held in view, can never be seen. A separate self is never there already. And what seems to be separation is everything appearing as that. There's no real separation. Separation is thought-based. And what seems to be thoughts is just everything appearing as that. So there's no real separation. What seems to be the imagination is everything appearing as an imagination. It's what is appearing as an imagination. There's no separate thing that can appear outside of this. There's no outside here. There's just everything. That's what seems to be coming up.
Yeah, beautiful. So if anyone has any comments or questions, please feel free to unmute and jump in.
So if there's just this, then why does that keep being said? What is the impetus that gets it to be said over and over and over again? If the sky's blue, are we going to sit here and talk about it all day? We all see it, we all know it. So I get the feeling that maybe there's an emphasis here to try and convince ourselves that something's real that isn't quite real. Because we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. We have no idea why we're here, what we are, what's going on, who's behind it, is there a God, isn't there? I mean, we don't know the answer to any of those questions. And there may be some answer in there, we'll find out someday, that says why what appears as this right now is appearing as this right now, even though we can't say we know what that is. That it could be one day that we will know.
Who is going to find this out?
Well,
So-
it doesn't need a person to find it out. It just needs, it's self-revelatory.
I think I'm with you on some of the when you're talking about this, but anyone, there's no one's going to find anything out. There's no one to find anything out.
But yet the seeking keeps happening.
It does. That is, I'm with you on that.
So
too.
we don't know why.
Yeah.
We can't say that we're doing it or we're not doing it. I mean, we can't say why, but it's still happening. And there is a difference between pain and suffering and bliss. They're not all the same. They're all part of this, but they're not the same thing. And we want one more than the other. So there are distinctions that we see, that we make, that we desire. And we like things more than we don't. I don't think anybody would like it if this meeting disappeared right now because Zoom went down. But if it did, that would be part of this. I mean, everything's part of this. I mean, how many times do we have to tell ourselves that?
A lot.
Apparently. Yeah, a lot.
Alice. Yeah, it does seem like a lot because, you know, for so long there appeared to be a belief that said, I'm a somebody, I'm independent, I have control, I can do things, and it's up to me to figure out what's wrong. And voila, I'm off on a seeking journey. And as Shirley so beautifully said a few meetings ago, that the suffering is telling. It's our suffering that says, wait a second, maybe something's not right. Maybe something I've missed because I'm suffering. The seeking doesn't seem to be working because whatever I seek, does it last? Even if you get it. Do you get it and stop seeking? No. You just move on to something else. But this turns out the seeking isn't separate from this. So even the seeking is fine. That's the freedom. That's why we talk about this. That's why this meeting.
What do you mean by freedom? I don't understand what you mean by that.
Because when I'm clinging to a story and trying to improve it, that's suffering.
I'm missing something. You brought up the word freedom and I'm trying to figure out what you meant by that.
Yeah, my experience is when I believed I was a separate entity who had free will and choice, and it was up to me to make my life work, I suffered. Because it turns out not to be the case. The one imagines they're the doer has no power.
Do you think that maybe we can also call freedom the formlessness that we are, the unlimitedness, how we are free that way? We're unlimited in reality. Would you say that that's where the freedom, when you say freedom or I hear freedom, that's how I relate to it? The freedom of, you know, our true nature, unlimited.
Yeah.
You know, when we think of it like that, maybe makes a little bit more sense because everything, the good and the bad, is allowed because it is unlimited expressions of this formlessness that we are, that everything is. I don't know if that might be able to help explain it a little bit better. So freedom is in everything because everything is absorbed, is this formlessness, which is unlimited and free. But we're experiencing it in a finite, very limited, dense experience. And that's why we have to always remind ourselves that this is not our true nature. So all that is freedom experienced in a form of boundness. So when we experience life, we suffer thinking this is our ultimate reality, when there's a truer reality, which is our unlimitedness, our formlessness. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, my thought is that it's like I feel like I'm a person. Usually, most of the time, feel like I'm a person, and I'm programmed into a default pattern that is the person thing, the seeker. It's like it's a default pattern, and that's the way that I naturally go. If I don't do anything. But when Kosi comes along and opens his mouth, that default thing, the pattern, that seeking pattern that's round and round and on it goes, it sort of just comes to a stop. And then I'm just there with just this, or just with what the words that stop it all, and the freedom, and that's freedom to me. So, that's my go of it.
Nice.
While you were talking, Faith, what came up as freedom here is, like, often when somebody asks questions or when somebody is speaking, I engage mentally with what is said and I take a position, and often there could be an argument following. Or so when you were speaking, I thought, well, here the freedom manifests that I don't have to do anything, that I can just let everything play out, and whatever is being said is all part of this freedom. It's free to be as it is.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a certain peacefulness with that as well.
Mm.
Like, I don't have to understand it. I don't have to control it. There's nothing to be done with it. It's okay to just let it be as it is.
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? That
Mhm.
nothing needs to be done, because the whole life has been about doing, changing, altering. It's just such relief to stop.
But don't we have to remain vigilant all the time? I mean, if you're driving a car, you better pay attention to what's going on. You could lose your life, or somebody else might. I mean, there are times when we have to be extremely vigilant, and I don't see any freedom in that at all. I mean, if I take my eyes off the road, something might happen. So, and that's everything's all part of what is, but what's part of what is can be extremely difficult to deal with. It can be, unnerving. All the negative emotions in the world we're all familiar with can come up in the next moment. I mean, somebody says something that triggers your emotional state. That happens a lot. I mean, consciousness is waking up to its own existence, in a sense, and realizing it's not a being, not a person. It's not anything in particular. There's just this self-aware field of energy, whatever you want to call it. And it's really great to see through that and understand that you're not a person. But there's still things that have to be dealt with in life, and we don't always feel great, and we don't feel wonderful about it. And we do say that this is better than something else. I mean, we still say those things, right? When you're in pain, you want to get out of it. You're not sitting there going, I'm in pain and I don't care.
I disagree.
Well, tell me
Because I personally have experienced it. I've been in like shattering pain, like to where you can, like to where I spent the first month just praying a mantra all day and night. Just it was take it away, please take it away, to anything that would listen. And then finally that pain became a non-factor when I realized that it was, at least this is the best way I can describe it. I realized that it was my interest in the pain leaving that was causing the problem. And it was so transformational right after that. It just was like something very different about that whole experience. And I'm planning to be in either lots of pain or to become very debilitated and like this physical form. My long-term plan is to watch it like degrade and probably be in lots of pain, maybe get some cancer, some of that stuff. I'm not interested in that not happening. I'm okay with it all happening.
congratulations.
Thanks.
It's a lot of hypotheticals, you know, and yes, that's what is. But it was interesting, Brent, when you mentioned the driving a car, and it's like the mind keeps creating situations and things, and yet we're just sitting here, you know. We're not. We're not. Maybe somebody is in some degree of pain, but we're not in the future. We're not dying, so we have no clue what's going to happen. But the mind keeps creating scenarios and forming like theories about it and stories and taking positions. And I'm returning back to the freedom. Those are all just hypotheticals, abstractions, stories about something that is not knowable. Yet we pretend we know, but if it's not knowable, so the freedom again would be, let it be.
Nobody's choosing to turn right or left in a car. Like you don't, maybe this is just, I'm speaking from my own, this is how I say things. I don't expect anyone to accept it, but I don't believe that I make choices to turn right or left. Maybe you call that determinism, but for me, that's a very, I don't know, that whole thing turns out to be true or something. We don't make choices, so nobody's being careful. For lack of a better term, it seems deterministic.
I would totally agree with that. I don't think there's any choice in any of this. I realized that a long time ago. But there are sensations that arise in our consciousness, and we don't control those. And then they determine what we do. I mean, why am I here today in this group? You know, why? You know, well, because I was looking around for something to do and I came across the group and I had a feeling arise in me that said, hey, this might be fun to go to this group. So there wasn't anything else to do. That was the stronger desire. So here I am. And I don't think I did any of that, but that happens all the time, you know, where something gets us to do whatever we do. And that's just the way it is too.
Hey, Brent, I have a question. Do you think your pain is yours? You own it?
No. Well,
you don't own your pain?
Let's put it this way. I can be in pain and you might not be, or you can be in pain and I might not be. So pain comes and goes. So,
and for me, when pain comes up, I just say to myself like this, all is this, I say, the pain is not mine and it's not as painful.
Great. I'll try that.
Okay, what do you guys think about the concept of a path? Something I mentioned last week. but like, I'm accusing everyone here of having a path right now. Like,
Good
Michael
luck,
said,
good luck if you put us all in the same category.
I'm categorizing everyone. Michael said that he used to run a Eckhart Tolle group, and I'll bet you every single person here like has like a progression that they could call upon. So I'm interested in
Yeah.
what people have to say about that.
You know, Thomas, you can appear like that. Like there was a time, yeah, for 10 years that The Power of Now was at the time seemed like a great book. I mean, it really was like, yeah, there's just the now. The problem though, that was, you know, you're always trying to get yourself back into the now.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you. But what about the whole concept of like a path in general? Like I mentioned in a couple of meetings, like some of the influences that I had, and like I can recall like kind of how I got here. And it wasn't just like I was walking down the street, like just somebody who like is interested in like stockbrokering and real estate and golf and stuff. And then suddenly, I mean, like I have this, there's like a quote history of like all these like religion and then philosophers and all kinds of stuff. And here I am. Like, what do you have to say? What do you think about? What does anybody think about that?
It seems to be that there's a path. I think that it seems to be like that, because ultimately we all, like you said, you know, like it seems to be like linear, but there is ultimately no path to be what you truly are. That's what I'll say about that. There's no path to that.
And as I said last time, a path kind of implies that there is a person who has a place
Yeah.
where you want to go, or you know, so it's a whole story. Then yes, there's a path. But if you peel away
Yeah.
the person and the story, and if you're, I'm gonna at the risk of repeating this again, you know, if there is just this, then there isn't a path. It's just not, you know, doesn't fit.
Seems like whenever I say that, like there's certain like people that I've said to that, like in this group, like maybe somebody would say there is no path, or maybe nobody's on a path. But I'd be like, oh yeah, hot shot. Well, I bet you have a path. Like, yeah, like let's look at your history here. You got let's see, you were Catholic, and then your mom was looking at Alan Watts, and then you met Krishnamurti. You got like 20 gurus. You're saying you have no path. You got 20 gurus in religion in there.
Yeah, that's where
I
you get
understand.
an argument when you have
Yeah.
two positions, and each position what claims that they are right or that they know. You know, it's a very common game.
I don't know that that is really, I know for me, I had, yeah, Eckhart Tolle, Krishnamurti, all those
Yeah.
guys. But none of them were really fulfilling for long. I was excited when I read The Power of Now, and that lasted a while. And then I found Muji, and then I found different ones. So it was delightful for me to come upon this non-duality, and just to be with this, and not to really have a path. And to me, it feels really liberating.
What makes, since you've been on that path, what makes you think that you're like, so you're saying this didn't work and that didn't work? What makes you think non-duality will work? Like maybe it's just another, like maybe it's another step, which is fine.
Which is fine, but I can only report at this time. It I don't know about working or not working. I seem to be more joyful being here, and having moments when everything falls away. They're rare moments, but they do happen where it is seen that I really am not the body. I'm none of these things. So I've had glimpses of that, and I just feel drawn to that. And I spend time with Nkosi every week, and I really appreciate that. But I wouldn't call it a path.
Yeah, can I say my story is very similar to everybody's, and to yours, Alice. You know, I started off looking at Christianity, and then Eckhart Tolle and Muji, the same old thing, and then I end up here. I would just like to let everybody know that I have spent my life having a counsellor person, a therapist, and trotting off to that therapist every time things get upsetting, whatever. And I've been doing it for years and years, for decades. And for the last 12 months, probably, I have not felt the need or wish to go to a therapist. And that's, to me, that's high praise. Oh, that is just unbelievable. Well, no, it's believable. But that's my testimony about what non-duality, radical non-duality does for me, to this person. Oh, God, you know what I mean. Peter's laughing at me.
Sounds like freedom to me.
Yep.
Laughing with you. I by the way, I started also with therapy and like gestalt therapy and Reiki.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
And now Thomas goes, see, he has a path. And I'm going to name drop something. I just, since we had this conversation, I actually thought about the path and no path. And of course, I'm listening to people, and I just came across Anna Brown, and I just loved it. And I thought, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
That's really helpful, actually. It reminds me, even though I don't exist, blah, blah, blah. But, it's fun. But maybe what shifted is there is less and less interest in finding answers. And, and this belief, I think I said this last time too, the belief that if I hear it more and more and more and more, I get closer to it. That belief is no longer active or alive as much.
And I believe also that the closer that seems to get to the truth, the more peace we feel. At least that's been my life. The closer I've come to truth, I really feel much more peace. And along with that, my belief in that gets, and I suffer much. I've learned a lot through. I would say I've learned through everything. In non-duality as well. I can include all of it. I could say that. I can include that card. It gave me peace during that time also.
If someone asks you what time it is and you
At least for
go,
me, truth is, sorry.
if someone asks you what time it is and you go, it's now, could you ever be wrong? It's always now. It's never not now. You don't have to worry about getting into the now because you can't get out of it. It's always now. But in the now, things are constantly changing, and memories come to mind, future possibilities come to mind, and it's all happening in the now, in the present moment. If you look at things that way, it's helpful for me to look at things that way, because I don't say to myself, the past doesn't exist, this doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, because they existed when they existed in the now, but it's always like right now. I find that very helpful.
I'd like to make a statement about the group. What I find really appealing coming to this group is that the people that put it on and that are somewhat, listed, like when Michael sends out updates and so on, it says Dan and Nkosi and Michael. And I find it absolutely wonderful that they're just sitting there allowing us to share whatever comes up, that they're not like feeling that urge to step in and assert, you know, the Kool-Aid that you know is governing us all. That I find absolutely wonderful and inspirational, and that's freedom.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
I don't know how to really say this. I may not say it correctly, but I feel that there's a underlying quietness going on that is just so big and carrying me. And I may get distracted in my story that it's there, but it's always there. And so I can be driving and be okay. I could not be okay, but this never leaves me. So the story happens, and but this is really always carrying me, and I can know that. So anything that really happens is so much lighter now because I feel the presence, if we want to call it that. And I think that's an important aspect of this to see that that's always there.
I think maybe that for me that this message it stops my mind from having questions and arguments about and judgment. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow it stops the mind, because when the mind was going, you know, I was writing my questions out for next time I went to the counselor, to the therapist, to say, what about this? What about that? Blah, blah, blah. And this message just seems to encompass everything. And it's like I've just looked for it my whole life. I've found it. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's so I don't think I'll be moving on from this. I think I'm here to stay. Don't you think you're here to stay, Alice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another aspect to the freedom is you're constantly being surprised. Wow, that's this too. Who'd have thought?
Mm.
I think what Brent said earlier about like, it's not like at the beginning, he was talking about like, he said something about things being this. And there, I was thinking about that this week. Like, if you have a this, you have to have a that. And like a universe with 0 objects, like can't recognize itself. And a universe with 1 object can't recognize itself because it has nothing to compare itself to. Only a universe with more than 1 object can observe itself. So like saying that it's this, like sounds at the very least, it sounds like we're spoiling the fun. Got to be a that too, if there's a this.
I like what Alice was pointing to, because down deep inside of us, like we're really all connected and we're really all one. And there's this magical thing that's going on that connects us all, that's constantly moving with energy and changing, and we're experiencing all these different things all the time. And we get caught up in the identities and the ego and all that stuff. But underneath that, you know, right in this moment, you can feel it. It's just this one thing that's apparently waking up to its existence and trying to figure itself out, maybe.
I would say another aspect of the freedom is the loss of meaning, because to the me, everything means something. There's such freedom when you realize that this moment doesn't mean anything.
Or there's freedom in, there's also freedom in me thinking that there's meaning in everything. So I get both. As I've been listening, it's interesting. It's like the everything has so many different opinions. As I've been following this, all these different opinions, that like everything, like why would everything, or it's just interesting why everything comes together and exchanges all these opinions, trying to figure out whatever it apparently is trying to figure out. It's like beautiful in that way, in the not making any sense, but there's a beauty to it. Why is everything doing this right now? All these different apparent people and opinions and points of view. That's interesting. Right? That is beautiful. That is sort of beautiful. Oh, I like it. Okay.
Nkosi, brother, do you have some words to take us out? Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, there was listening happening and watching, and everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful because everything is just an expression of this. So what is? So yeah, there is nothing wrong or right with anything. And I must as well mention that this message also, in a way, when the body is feeling a pain of some sort, just by listening to this message, the pain might be taken away at times. This has been seen here. Just by talking about this message, or the pain might just like dissipate. Yeah. So yeah, it's a beautiful message. It's a beautiful message.
Yeah, because Nkosi, that's what I was trying to say. The pain, the emotional pain here subsides when I listen to this message, particularly from you. I'm still loving the ones, Michael, that you put on where you have the music going and Nkosi talking, and it's just, I've probably said it before, it's a lullaby, puts me to sleep. Just the world is, everything's right. The world is okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you haven't heard them, they're on my, just go to YouTube, type in Michael Jeffries, and there's, I think, 47 audios to some lovely music, which most people like, not all. But you can just let it play in the background if you're doing housework or making dinner. You don't need to watch the screen, so that's nice.
I like all the artwork too.
Well, bless your heart. Yeah.
Wait,
No,
which videos are those? Are you talking about, is that this meeting or something else?
No, it was when I used to take Alice's privates with Nkosi and carefully go through the whole thing and string together anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes of of just Nkosi talking, what he shared with Alice over and over to music.
Yeah,
And
I listened to some of those. Those are awesome.
yeah. And there is something about the repetition that does sort of wear down the mind's resistance. It's like, because you want to feel good. And it's sort of like Nkosi is giving you an invitation to let go of your worries without having to do anything.
Yeah, it's like it speaks. Maybe it's like that it bypasses the mind and it speaks to something deep within. You don't even really have to understand maybe you don't have to understand the words. I don't know, but it's more than just chatter to the mind.
Yeah, it's the energy. The music and Nkosi's words have such a complementary energy to them. Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
I'm curious why this meeting doesn't go longer than 1 hour. Not this one in particular, but just in general.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you. Yeah, it just seems to be 1 hour. It just seems to be what it is right now. Yeah, I don't have an answer.
How long can you talk about nothing?
Endlessly.
Thank you, everybody. Each
Thank
and
you,
every one of
Michael.
you for coming.
Nkosi.
Much love to all of you. Nkosi, brother, thanks for coming. Good night, everybody.
Good
Right.
night.
Night, everybody. Bye.
Right.